Hey friends, what's up? Philip here with Points of Philip, and let's be honest, some people really hate points and miles. They think it's too complicated, they think it's not worth it, and honestly, sometimes they think it's just a scam, but here's the truth. Most people hate it because they don't fully understand it or want to make the effort to kind of make it work for them, and I understand that, right? That's fine, but I feel like the banks kind of want it that way. So today, we're going to break down the 5 biggest reasons people hate points and miles and how you can flip each one into free travel. Let's get into it. Before we do, though, I want to talk about points with Philip. So I'm Philip here, and I love traveling with points and miles. So my wife and I have been traveling with points and miles for the last couple of years now, and well, we've saved tens of thousands of dollars in free travel. And I want to really take what I've learned and share it with you so you can even get better travel redemptions, right? I want to hear where you're going with your free points and miles, right? Because that's kind of what we're all in here together to do. All these banks and all these airlines and hotels, they're giving away these opportunities, and we have to be the ones that actually take them up on it. So if you love free travel, or if you're just tired of your credit cards not doing enough for you, hit that like button, hit subscribe, and let's get maximizing those points. So the first reason that people hate points and miles is that it's too complicated. The problem is that people can see award charts, transfer partners, and think, nope, I'm out. I get it, right? It is complicated, right? So the things that I've had to study since learning the points and miles game is how am I able to find sweet spots, right? So what I do is I don't focus in on kind of the whole picture, right? I don't try to focus in on learning every single trick out there in the game. What I do is I find a trip that I want to take or that I'm likely to take. And what I basically do is I find out, who's flying that route, what kind of sweet spots are on that particular carrier, or what kind of partnerships do they have. And then I look outward from there. But the goal is always, where do I want to go? And so that kind of limits things a little bit. Let me take, for example, my first business class redemption that I made for me and my wife. So we knew that we wanted to go to Paris and London, and we weren't really sure kind of which one we wanted to go to first or how that whole trip wanted to work. And so what I did was I looked into ways to get either from the United States to Paris, ways to get from the United States to London, and then ways to get from London to the United States and from Paris to the United States. And so what I found was that the best way to use the points and miles was to fly into London. And the reason why we flew into London was because, well, it was easier for points and miles to make that because when you're flying into London, particularly on Virgin, the taxes and fees are actually substantially less flying into London than when you're flying out of London. And so if you're only flying into London, you're saving a lot on points and on taxes, right? And so that's what we ended up doing. And then we traveled to Paris, and then we ended up flying from Paris to New York because we found the redemptions of all redemptions, and that was with Air France business class. And so I actually found on a date that made sense for our trip 2 business class award seats for 50,000 points apiece. Now, of course, this was last year. I think now they go for the 60,000 points if you can find the Saver award fares. But I was able to find that particular thing. So that's the first thing I booked. I booked my business class trip because that's what kind of worked for me. Now, I did have a lot of flexibility, right? So I was flexible with where I went, how I got back. And so that flexibility really can help you. So that's important to note. You don't have to be a spreadsheet nerd. You just have to be smarter than the average traveler. You just have to know where it is you want to go, kind of figure out how other people are getting there, and figure out how you can get there yourself. So it's actually a little bit easier than most people think. The second reason why people hate points and miles is the points just aren't worth it. The big question, I think, is why not just use cash back? If I were to use cash back cards, let's say if I use my Fidelity Rewards Visa card for 2% cash back on every single purchase, I would be able to just cash out that money and use it to pay for vacations. Yeah, that's true. You could do that, and that would make sense. However, when you transfer those points out, you can make a lot more than that in value. And so when we take a look at those, the business class redemption that I made last year, that was for, let's see, if I looked at the one-way ticket, I think it was going to be like $8,000, so $4,000 per person. But if you looked at the round trip ticket, it was going to be closer to like $2,000 or $3,000 per person for that particular leg of the trip in an Air France business class. And so, but depending on how you value those points, it was either 3 to 4 to 7 to 8 cents per point. Whereas if I were to just cash out that would be 1 cent. So, essentially, if I was paying with my Blue Business Plus card at 2x and I was getting 8 cents per point, that became a 16x card back instead of a 2% cashback card. And so that's where those sweet spots can really, really work out. Now, one of the reasons why people really like Hyatt points is because they can be really, really valuable, especially on the high end. So my wife and I, we actually transferred 45,000 points to Hyatt, and we stayed at the Park Hyatt in New York. And that saved us about $2,400 a night because we were going in the middle of the Christmas time rush. And so everything in New York was just wildly expensive. Yeah, sure, we had to spend 45,000 points, but we were saving $2,400. Now, of course, it needs to be said, we weren't going to ever spend that much. But when you think of the value, the fact that we got a Central Park view room, a huge spa tub inside our room, it kind of made it worthwhile. So points, they can be worth it. You do have to put in the work to find it, though, but they can be a lot better than cash back. All right, so the next problem that people have with these points and miles credit cards is that the annual fees can be too high. And that's true, right? The American Express Platinum card has an annual fee now of $895. The Hilton Aspire card has an annual fee of $550. And it just kind of goes on from there. The Chase Sapphire Reserve, $795. Like, those are expensive cards. And that's kind of fair, right? So especially if you're someone who has the gold card and the platinum card, that's $895 plus throw in an authorized user of $195 plus the $325 in the gold card, you are in for American Express for a pretty penny of change. And so that comes with a lot of stress because when you're spending that much money, you do need to work hard to get that value back. And that's true, right? If I just have the Saver card and then let's say the City, even if I just have, let's say the City Double Cash and the City Strata Premier. Those two cards have a $95 annual fee, and so I can do points with those. Those are really great. What's wrong with doing that? Or what's wrong with going straight cash back if I just do a Quicksilver and Saver setup? I'm getting 3% cash back on some pretty high categories, 1.5% cash back on everything else, and I'm not paying Capital One a single dime just to hold the cards. And so what's up with that? Here's the thing. The points and miles are only half the battle, right? So when my wife and I were staying at the Conrad in London, actually no, let's do the Canopy Hilton in Paris. So my wife and I, we were staying at the Canopy Hilton in Paris, and we were able to use, first of all, our free night award with the Hilton Aspire card for one night's room. So that was $350 off right off the bat. However, we made a point redemption, and with Hilton you can only redeem points for base rooms, and so that means you get the small room with the queen size bed and not really that great of a view. However, because we had the Hilton Diamond or the Hilton Aspire card, we also had Hilton Diamond status. And so what that gave us was two things. So that gave us a huge upgrade opportunity. So we weren't going through like the Fine Hotels and Resorts or the Hotel Collection or any other special program like that. We were just Diamond members. They upgraded us to the top floor and to a huge balcony view. And so because we were Diamond members, we actually were able to pick which side of the building we wanted to be on, which meant we were on the side of the building that had direct balcony view access to the Eiffel Tower. So that room, right? So we were getting free points in that room, and the room rate that we were paying for was about $350 a night. However, for that much, much bigger room with a much, much better balcony and view, well, was a lot more than that. We're thinking more like $500 or $600 a night, maybe even $700 a night. So the value that I got from my points and miles were compounded by the fact that I had these high annual fee credit cards with these bonuses or with these added perks. So that's huge, not to mention the fact that with that, with our diamond status, we got free breakfast, but we didn't just get the free intercontinental breakfast they give to the gold status people with Hilton. We got to order from the kitchen for completely free. We got to order and go back and like all this wonderful stuff. This was an insane trip made possible and again, completely free because it was paid for with points. We had the chance to have an insanely amazing and incredible Paris opportunity for just like we were living the Paris life. We looked out the door and there was the Eiffel Tower right there lighting up at the top of every single hour. This is why you pay the annual fees for the perks and benefits, and then the credits help to kind of make it worthwhile. And so that's important to note too. So the annual fees, they're high, right? But if you're in it in the points and miles game for the prestige, for these enhanced experiences, they can kind of make it happen at a level that no one else can. So if the benefits happen to match your lifestyle, you're not paying $850, you're prepaying for travel perks that can make a big, big deal. Now, the fourth reason that people really don't like points and miles is that it takes too long to earn enough points. And so the problem here is I'll never get enough points for anything. So the solution here, honestly, is American Express. First of all, if you are spending, the gold card is where it's at. American Express has the best multipliers for kind of, enhanced spending, right? Between their business cards and their regular cards, you can actually make a decent amount of points, especially when you couple that with Rakuten. So Rakuten is a shopping travel portal that allows you to actually save money when you shop with specific retailers. Now, you do have to shop through the Rakuten portal, but when you're actually getting your cash back and you have an American Express card, you can get your cash back in the form of membership reward points. And so let's say that you're trying to switch from your wireless carrier provider to Verizon, and Verizon happens to have a 50,000 point sign-up bonus. Well, that's 50,000 Amex membership reward points. That's a business class seat to Europe. So just for the cost of something you were doing anyway, you can get a free trip to Europe with unlimited champagne, starting when you actually sit down in the chair before you even start to depart. That's huge, right? That is huge. Now, the second part of this is the sign-up bonuses. Now, sign-up bonuses are kind of where people get started with this. Now, I have earned a significant amount of points in sign-up bonuses. So far this year, we've earned a little bit over 1 million membership reward points, and a lot of that is in sign-up bonuses. We got the 250,000 point offer for the business platinum card. We got a 125,000 point offer for the personal platinum card, and then we got a 150,000 point offer for the business gold card, among a lot of others. And so these sign-up bonuses really, really help you make sure that you have enough points in order to be able to actually tackle that vacation. And that can be twofold too, because you don't have to restrict yourself to one. You could do an American Express card or even a Chase card and get that sign-up bonus, cover the airfare. But then you can also get a Chase Marriott card or an American Express Hilton card and even American Express Marriott card, and kind of be earning those hotel points as well. And so it's not that hard to get a free vacation with just a couple of credit card sign-up bonuses. That's huge. So when I opened the Amex Gold, I earned enough for a flight to Paris, right? So I earned 60,000 points for that sign-up bonus. I earned 15,000 points for signing up with a Blue Business Plus. And then I also did some spend along the way. And that was enough to get us those free business class tickets back from Europe. So that's huge. The multipliers are huge. The sign-up bonuses are huge. Now, the fifth and final reason people hate points and miles is that the redemption process can be a nightmare. Now, here's the thing. You can see the problem is I can't find flights, or I transferred my points and now they're stuck. The solution here is to talk about booking strategies. So you can book early, you can check multiple partners, and you can also use flight search tools like Seats.Aero or Award Hacker. So let's take a look at how I was able to actually book my premium economy tickets from Atlanta to London, and then eventually from Manchester to Orlando. So my wife and I decided we wanted to go back to England again for spring break. And so when we did that, we knew that we wanted to fly, basically maximize our points. So we were fine with premium economy on the way out, and we wanted to do business seats on the way back. And so I searched on a couple of different search tools, and then I also searched directly with Virgin Red because The Virgin point system, first of all, they transfer from anybody, so it's easy to earn those points. But the second thing that we need to know is that they have a lot of different potential airports to leave from. So what I did find was that if I left from Atlanta and went to Heathrow, me and my wife could actually get, premium economy seats for about, I think it was 15,000, actually no, 13,000 points per person, plus some taxes and fees. I think it was like $250 in taxes and fees for that particular flight. And so 13,000 points is huge, right? And so all we had to do was we had to fly to Atlanta. We did that on Southwest because we had a bunch of Southwest points. And then we were able to fly in style, right? So premium economy is nice. It's domestic first class seats. You still get the really nice meal. You still get unlimited snacks. You still get the nice bathroom amenities. And you're flying high. Now, let's take a look at what I did on the way back. So my wife and I we were just going to the Cotswolds and then to London. And then we actually ended up going to Paris and did a tack-on thing. And what I found was that there was actually a really cheap award if I flew from Manchester to Orlando. And so instead of flying from Paris or instead of flying from London, I found that if we did a flight from Paris to Manchester, which only cost me 10,000 Air France points to book both of those tickets, I could then save thousands upon thousands of points for a business class redemption. And so my wife and I, we actually found 35,000 point per seat for Manchester to Orlando. And so that was really nice. Now we did have to make that connecting flight, but we were able to have a really enhanced, incredible experience with full service, the whole 9 yards that we wouldn't have regardless. And so basically, there are ways to simplify it. You can use search tools. You can figure out what works for the trip that you're trying to make and kind of expand out from there. So that's how you do it, right? Now, let's take a look at some other kind of optional bonus reasons we don't like it, right? So devaluations are kind of a big deal, right? Devaluations are a thing. Now, one of the reasons why everyone likes transferable currencies is because if one program makes a devaluation, all you have to do is turn around and just fix it and go with the other program, right? So there's ways to work around that, right? So that's important to know. Okay, so to sum up, yeah, points and miles can look intimidating, but once you understand the rules, the banks can be basically paying for your next vacation. So if you want to learn how to make this work for you, check out my credit card consultation service at pointsofphilip.com. Link's going to be in the description below. And hey, hit like if you learned something new, and I'll see you next time right here on Points of Philip. Have a great day. Bye.